D.C. is abuzz today as President Trump is set for an unlikely meeting with Democratic Socialist and soon-to-be mayor of New York, Zohran Mamdani.
President Trump is willing to meet with anyone and talk to anyone and to try to do what's right on behalf of the American people.
I'm Daily Wire Executive Editor John Bickley with Georgia Howe. It's Friday, November 21st. This is Morning Wire.
Fallout from the Epstein files mounts, with more expected in the days to come. We look at who so far is feeling the heat.
Some of you will have seen my statement of regret, expressing my shame with respect to what I did in communication with Mr. Epstein.
And the September jobs report smashes expectations, more than doubling the amount forecast by economists.
American jobs are going to American workers for a change, and that's the thing that I'm proudest about with these numbers.
Thanks for waking up with Morning Wire. Stay tuned. We have the news you need to know.
Do you ever read protein bar labels and feel like you're deciphering a candy bar wrapper? The supplement industry is packed with bars masquerading as health foods, loaded with sugar and artificial ingredients that leave you bloated and unsatisfied. Luckily, we discovered Equip Foods Prime Bar, the first of its kind grass-fed beef protein bar with only real food ingredients and absolutely nothing to hide, with 20 grams of clean protein. Starting today, listeners will receive an exclusive discount on Prime Bar, which has become our team's favorite protein bar on the market, with 20 grams of protein in every bar. Made with just 11 clean ingredients, these bars deliver 20 grams of grass-fed beef protein without the bloat. They're third-party tested for heavy metals, microplastics, pesticides and glyphosate, mycotoxins, and molds. So when they say they're the cleanest bars on the market, they actually mean it and can back it up. If you want to try the cleanest protein bar on the market that already sold out once, go to equipfoods.com/wire and use code WIRE at checkout to get 25% off one-time purchases or 40% off your first subscription order for a limited time. That's equipfoods.com/wire and use code WIRE at checkout.
Despite the pair's verbal battle during the New York City mayoral race, President Trump is meeting with far-left Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani at the White House today.
Here with more about the unlikely and now much anticipated sit-down is Daily Wire reporter Amanda Prestigiacomo. Hey, Amanda. So a lot of anticipation for this meeting, unsurprisingly. What exactly can we expect?
Yeah, that really is the question. There's been a lot of back and forth between these two. Trump even said during the mayoral campaign that he would withhold federal funding from New York City if Mamdani were to win. And of course, he has won, so that threat now looms large. However, we could see a civil meeting. Mamdani is the one who reached out to Trump, and he's also changed his tone on Trump ahead of this meeting. During a presser just yesterday, Mamdani seemed to draw some parallels between himself and the president that could be interpreted as an olive branch, but of course also a self-serving comparison.
Right.
Here he is discussing his experience talking to Trump voters.
When I asked those New Yorkers who they voted for and why, I met many who voted for President Trump, and they told me it was the affordability crisis. It was cost of living, cost of living, cost of living. And they said that they remembered being able to afford their rent, their childcare, their Con Ed, their public transit more 4 years ago than they could in that moment. And we ran a campaign focused on the same thing, cost of living. And what we found, actually, is that 1 in 10 New Yorkers who voted for Trump ended up voting for our campaign. And they did so because they're looking for leaders to actually deliver on the cost of living crisis.
Now, that's a far cry from his victory speech just a few weeks ago when he said that he would be Trump-proofing New York City, and he called Trump a despot.
Right, and as you mentioned, this move from Mamdani does make some strategic sense as a way of sort of elevating himself to a higher political level. So what about the president? What have we heard from Trump about the meeting?
Yeah, he too seems open to this meeting. Trump obviously accepted the meeting request, and he also said this week that he wants to see everything work out well for New York. Trump was, of course, born in Queens and has a special place in his heart for New York City. Now, as for what's on the agenda for today, Mamdani said he wants to talk to Trump about public safety, economic security, and affordability for New Yorkers. Affordability, though, that seems to be what Mamdani's pitches to New Yorkers who really don't like Trump and don't want to see this meeting happen. Mamdani stressed that he'd work with anyone to bring down costs, and he acknowledged that he does need the White House, he does need funding from the federal government if he wants to help New Yorkers.
Now, we've touched on this a little bit already, but let's get into the background with these two. What have we heard from Trump and Mamdani prior to this coordination of the meeting?
Yeah, Trump has really blasted Mamdani. He's called him a 100% communist lunatic. And as I mentioned, he's threatened to withhold most federal funding, citing Mamdani's extreme proposed policies, which he said would give New York City no chance at survival. Mamdani has notably proposed free buses, universal childcare, freezing rents, and a new Department of Community Safety to respond to some 911 calls instead of NYPD officers. Trump has also said that Mamdani might have to be arrested if he follows through on his pledge to stop federal ICE officers from deporting illegals in the city. As for Mamdani, he's called himself Donald Trump's worst nightmare. He's also claimed that Trump has betrayed working-class Americans and again called Trump a despot and vowed to stop ICE from deporting illegals. He's also been extremely critical of Israel, which obviously clashes with Trump's pro-Israel policies. Here's Mamdani taunting Trump in his Election Day victory speech.
So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up, because the Donald Trumps of our city have grown far too comfortable taking advantage of their tenants. We will put an end to the culture of corruption that has allowed billionaires like Trump to evade taxation and exploit tax breaks.
Definitely a meeting we'll be watching with interest and updating listeners about later. Amanda, thanks so much for reporting.
You're welcome.
Here's something you don't see every day. Doctors running a Black Friday sale. But that's exactly what's happening at Brickhouse Nutrition, and honestly, it's kind of a big deal. They're doing 30% off everything. That's their biggest sale of the year. And we're talking about legitimately impressive stuff here. There's Lean, which is the doctor-formulated weight loss supplement. It's designed for people who want real results without having to deal with injections. I always tell people you don't notice until you do. Lean really keeps you out of the kitchen. I know, because when I take it, I'm spending a lot more time working and less time looking for snacks in the Daily Wire kitchen. Then there's Creatone. Creatine that's actually made specifically for women. It helps you look more lean and more toned without having to add a bunch of extra workouts or restrictive dieting to your routine. And get this, Field of Greens is the only superfruit and vegetable drink that's been shown in an actual university study to help slow aging. Plus, everything else they make, better sleep products, superior collagen, all of it is 30% off right now. The catch? These deals won't stick around forever. Black Friday prices move pretty fast. Head over to brickhousesale.com and grab 30% off while it's still available. Again, that's brickhousesale.com for 30% off.
After years of whispered allegations around Jeffrey Epstein, President Trump has signed the bill forcing the release of the Epstein files, as new emails and texts are already leaking.
Here with the latest is Daily Wire culture reporter Megan Basham. So, Megan, we've reported at length on here about the process of getting this bill to Trump's desk. Now it's finally been signed, but there are some exceptions built in for what's going to be released. So let's start there. What are we not going to see?
Yeah. So, the order here is for all of the documents to come out, but there are exceptions carved out for the protection of witness identities, of victims' identities, carve-outs for national security, and also for ongoing probes. So those things could delay some of these documents still. So people need to know that. But at the same time, victims like Annie Farmer, who testified alongside Virginia Giuffre's family, are still hailing this as a long overdue victory.
Passing this Epstein transparency bill is one important step that can be taken to prove to Americans that the government does not side with sexual perpetrators.
So that measure is now going to require Pam Bondi to release all of these unclassified Epstein documents within 30 days. So we're talking everything from flight records to emails to plea deal details. All of that needs to come out.
Now, as we've reported, President Trump and the White House previously opposed the full release of these files. There were, of course, theories as to why. One of the main issues that they cited was privacy. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. And I think we saw a pretty prominent turnaround here in messaging from the White House. One of the things that they also talked about in the months prior to this was that they felt the vote would be premature. Eventually, though, all of those objections sort of melted away in the face of, I would say, some pretty vociferous public pressure from people who wanted answers here. So President Trump did end up urging Republicans to vote for it because, as he posted on social media, we have nothing to hide, he said. So he has now additionally called for a new investigation into various Epstein associates, including Bill Clinton, JP Morgan Chase, and some others.
So what are the political implications here, either for Democrats or Republicans?
I would say there's a lot of implications for a lot of people. So a lot of layers to this. And one of those is the perception, of course, of Trump's past association with Epstein. That appears to have hurt him. Also, that resistance he had for a time to releasing all of those documents. But I think we also have to look at how damaging this has been for Democrats as well. So the documents that have been released show that Epstein was feeding questions during a congressional hearing to Democratic delegate Stacey Plaskett. So that was back in 2019. On Tuesday, Plaskett characterized her communication with Epstein as simply receiving texts from a constituent.
And I got a text from Jeffrey Epstein, who at the time was my constituent, who was not public knowledge at that time that he was under federal investigation, and who was sharing information with me.
And then we also have some other figures kind of caught in this Epstein vortex. People like famed philosopher Noam Chomsky. Already, these newly released documents reveal that he kept up friendly correspondence with Epstein, even offered him a sort of letter of recommendation. And we need to be clear, this came after Epstein was convicted in 2008 for trying to procure a child for prostitution. And then there's also Harvard economist and former Clinton Treasury Secretary Larry Summers. So he also continued to communicate with Epstein up till 2019, long after Epstein had been put in jail. He was asking Epstein for advice on romantically pursuing a woman that Summers described as his mentee, so potentially a subordinate there. So now Harvard says they are going to open another investigation into this, and Summers says that he is resigning from the board of OpenAI.
Well, probably not the last resignation we're going to see as a result of these documents. Megan, thanks for reporting.
Yep, my pleasure.
The September job numbers are finally here after the data was delayed nearly 2 months over the government shutdown. While administration officials are excited about the data, a new poll shows Americans may not be as optimistic about the direction of the economy.
Daily Wire reporter Tim Pierce is here to talk us through the data. Hey, Tim. So let's start with this jobs report. What are the key takeaways here?
Well, the headline is the 119,000 jobs added in September. That's the highest gain since April, and it is double what economists expected the month to bring. Downward revisions for the numbers of July and August, though, took a bit out of that. They came in 33,000 lower than previously reported. And the unemployment rate ticked up slightly from 4.3% to 4.4%. Overall, though, the administration is happy with the numbers. Here's Vice President J.D. Vance on Thursday going through some of the data.
In the first 10 months of the Trump economy, we've increased take-home pay by about $1,200, adjusting for inflation. So that's a huge, huge thing, and this jobs report confirms that. You have the number of manufacturing hours worked in the economy is actually going up. You see the private sector is really driving this economic growth and is driving the job creation. And this is really important, I know, to you, Matt, but really to me, and it's that we are seeing the job growth go to native-born American citizens. And what happened under the Biden administration is, to the extent there was any job growth at all, if you looked at the data, almost all of the net job creation in the United States under the Biden administration went to the foreign-born. Now, of course, some of those people are legal immigrants to the United States, but that means that a lot of the job creation was actually going to illegal aliens who shouldn't have been in our country.
Now, this jobs report is particularly important because it is the only snapshot of the labor market ahead of the Federal Reserve's next meeting on December 9th and 10th.
Yeah, and about that, President Trump has continued to press Jerome Powell to cut the interest rate. With these job numbers, do we have a sense of what they might do this go around?
Yeah, there have been a few experts out there trying to read the tea leaves on that. Heather Long, she's the chief economist at Navy Federal Credit Union. She expects the Fed to hold the interest rate steady. She points out that even though the jobs report has good numbers in September, the economy's 4-month average ending in September is only about 44,000 jobs added every month. She said that's just barely treading water. Labor force participation is up, and that's a good sign even with the unemployment rate ticking up. But according to Long, it's hard to argue things look better in the labor market. It's mostly stayed steady without significant gains or falls.
All right, so we have the Trump administration's take and the economist's perspective on this. Georgia mentioned this at the top. We wanted to talk about the public perception as well. How do Americans view the economy at this point?
Yeah, the Trump administration should be seeing some warning signs. Americans overall are not optimistic about where the economy is heading. Fox News released its latest national survey on Wednesday, and according to Fox News, some 76% of voters view the economy negatively, worse than the 67% who felt that way in July and the 70% who said the same at the end of President Biden's term. And the news gets worse for Trump particularly. According to Fox News again, about twice as many respondents say President Trump, rather than Biden, is responsible for the current economy, and 3 times as many say Trump's economic policies have hurt them, about the same as said Biden's did last year. So far, the administration still has plenty of runway ahead of midterms, but there must be some conversations going on behind the scenes at the White House on how to fix these numbers before people start casting ballots.
Yeah, I'm sure they're having those conversations. The economy always, in the end, determines these elections. Tim, thanks so much for reporting.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for waking up with us. And if you're listening to the show, now you can watch for free on Daily Wire Plus. We'll be back later this evening with more news you need to know.
Consistency is everything when it comes to your health, but life gets busy, and honestly, remembering to reorder supplements every month, that's just one more thing on your already packed to-do list. That's why I became a Balance of Nature preferred customer, and here's why it's a total game changer. Your supplements show up like clockwork every 28 days right to your doorstep. No remembering to reorder, no running out, it just happens automatically. And here's the kicker. You're getting the lowest price Balance of Nature offers every single time. No hunting for deals, no promo codes, no stress. Plus, shipping is totally free every month. But what really sold me is you get your own personal health coach. Someone who actually checks in, cheers you on, and helps you stay on track with your goals. The easiest routines are the ones you don't have to think about. You handle life, Balance of Nature handles the rest. Right now, you can become a preferred customer and lock in wholesale pricing with free shipping every month. Head over to balanceofnature.com and make consistency automatic. Go to balanceofnature.com and use promo code WIRE for 35% off your first order as a preferred customer, plus get a free bottle of fiber and spice. That's balanceofnature.com, promo code WIRE.